Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. And today's video is a perfect example of how race plays out in Brazil. It's also a key to understanding the difference between what we call historical blatant racism in the United States versus how racism functions in Brazil. Now, some people will call this subtle type of racism, but I don't see anything subtle about it. I'm going to analyze in this video the idea of the elevator being a place of racial and social segregation. So let's get right into this story for today. It's called, in an episode of Elevator Racism, delivery man is prevented from using a building's social elevator by resident. Now, just from that title, I'm going to give you just one guess. Who was the person what color was the person who was prevented from using the elevator, and what color was the person who tried to stop him from getting on the elevator? What do you think? It ain't hard to tell. So before I even get into this video, make sure you like this video, share this video. Consider subscribing to the channel. Got a lot of great content on this YouTube channel. Click on the notification bell so that you'll know when I put up new videos. And with that said, let me get directly into today's video. So a few things I want to point out as I go on. This question of, a previous article that I did several years ago called "What Are You Blacks Doing Here?" is the idea, as I've said, in Brazil, even though you don't have blacks only, whites only type of signs there is this social attitude that says black people are not supposed to be in certain social settings where middle and upper class people are expected to be there while black people are not expected to be there. So it's the skin color that sets that off, skin color being associated, race being associated with somebody's social class. The thought is that if somebody's black, they must be poor. They must come from a poor neighborhood, right? So that's how they treat people. Again, the social elevator versus the service elevator, which I'm going to get into in a minute. And I want to point this out because it harks back to what I saw, or what all of us know about racism in, the South of the United States, where you see the signs that say whites only, colored only, right? And this is what I'm saying. It's a key difference between how racism functions in Brazil and how it functions in the United States. In the United States, you got the signs, whites only, blacks only. We're talking 50, 60 years ago, whatever. In Brazil, the social elevator is in some ways similar to this segregation on the waterfront. Why is that? Because in a lot of buildings, a lot of apartment buildings in Brazil, and this went on for years, you go into a building, a high rise or whatever, and you'll have two elevators side by side. One says social elevator, and the other one says service elevator, like elevador de serviço, elevador social. So the idea here is certain people are allowed to get, or are thought to have the right to use one elevator, while the other people are expected to use the other one. I'm going to get into that in a minute. And also I want to talk about the space of apartments being another area of like racial social segregation in Brazil. So let's just get into this. Delivery man is prevented from using a building's social elevator by resident and denounces woman for what's called racial injury. A 2003 law in Rio de Janeiro prohibits discrimination in the use of elevators and provides for everyone the use or to use the social equipment. You're not going up here, no, said the woman as she barred João Eduardo Silva de Jesus from entering this social elevator. This is a young man right here. This is the woman here. So as I asked you, I says, who do you think was impeding somebody, and who do you think was being discriminated against? It's not hard to tell. A delivery man was prevented from using a building's social elevator by a resident of a condominium in Jacarepaguá in Rio de Janeiro's West Zone. The woman was identified by witnesses by the name of Claudia. Somebody on Twitter or X described the scene. It was like, imagine if there was, racism in Brazil. He's poking fun of the idea that so many people still insist that racism doesn't exist in Brazil. So if this happens and there's no racism in Brazil, what would real racism look like? I mean, he's, it's tongue in cheek what he's saying here. He says here, a woman tries to impede a black delivery man from going up in the elevator, right? The guy recorded the video with his cell phone. So João Eduardo Silva de Jesus was delivering bottles of mineral water when the woman barred him from entering the elevator and demanded that he use the service elevator. In the video recorded by the delivery man, the woman appears on the video blocking the elevator entrance. The situation took place on Sunday, February the 4th, and was registered at the police station as a racial injury due to the prejudice. In the building, there are two elevators and only one button to call them down. According to residents, the first one to come down is usually used, regardless of whether the person lives there, is a worker on duty, or a visitor. In the video, João is heard defending himself by saying that there is a law that guarantees his rights. Against the woman's insistence and calling the doorman, the young man he's always heard saying, "I'm working, I'm not effing around." They call it like sacanagem, they say in Brazil. You up to no good or whatever. The young man is also heard telling the woman, "Look, this is your problem." He goes on, "There is no service elevator. This doesn't exist. This is the law now. Don't you know that? You didn't know? Well, now you know. I will be going up. Yes." When the woman asks him if he's recording the altercation, he says, "Yes, I'm recording what you're doing to me." Okay. Speaking to the Metropolis website, João Eduardo also said that the service elevator wasn't even working when he arrived to deliver the water. Rio Municipal Law 3.629 of 2003 prohibits any kind of discrimination in the use of elevators in the city, whether due to race, sex, color, origin, social condition, age, size, or the presence of a disability or non-contagious disease. The confrontation resulted in a police report for injury, racial injury, they call it, due to prejudice. So some of the photos I wanted to show you here, this is what you can find, this was typical in Brazil for a long time. You had the service elevator and the social elevator, okay? Terms of the service elevator and the social elevator is prohibited in Rio. So they actually had to create laws in different states to outlaw this practice of having the service elevator versus the social elevator. So, I mean, what does all this mean? The elevator in Brazil is in some ways a place of social and racial segregation. There are two types of elevator, the service elevator that employees and maids are expected to use, and the social elevator, which residents and guests of residents are expected to use. Because maids are still very common in Brazil, as well as the fact that they are very revealing of the social hierarchy, the film, The Help, resonated with many Black Brazilians, as facets of this film are still common in Brazil today. The elevator was also the scene of a highly publicized incident in the early 90s. It happened in Vitória, Espírito Santo. I think that's southeastern Brazil. And this exposed a social standard that has existed in Brazil for many years. This young lady right here, this is Ana Flávia Peçanha de Azevedo and her father, Albuino Azevedo. And the story goes, on Saturday, June 26, 1993, 19-year-old Black college student Ana Flávia Peçanha de Azevedo held open the social elevator door in a building in Vitória, Espírito Santo, while saying goodbye to a friend. On another floor, someone started banging on the elevator door. Ana Flávia allowed the door to close, and after a few minutes, she summoned the elevator. After getting on the elevator, she ran into businesswoman Teresina Stange, a 40-year-old blonde with green eyes, and her son Rodrigo, 18. Ana Flávia revealed that Teresina was wondering who had held up the elevator. "No one," she said. "I only held it up for a few moments." The woman apparently didn't like her answer and started screaming. "You have to learn that the bosses in the building are the residents. Preto," meaning black, and poor do not have their turn here, she warned. "Ma'am, respect me," Ana Flávia said to the angry woman. Teresina shouted back, "Shut up, you're just a empregadinha, you're just a little maid." Upon entering the hall, the woman's son stepped into the dispute. He says, "If you say anything else, I put my fist in your face," he shouted. I asked if they knew me and that they respect me," says Ana Flávia. Rodrigo threatened her again. Shut up, if you keep talking, I'm going to shove my hand between your legs." Teresina then grabbed the girl's arm and Rodrigo punched her on the left side of her face. The situation may or not have been made headlines if it weren't for one important fact. Ana Flavia was the daughter of Abuino Azeredo, the black governor of the southeastern state of Espírito Santo. Several things going on there. The fact that they assumed this woman had to have been a maid, so thus she should have been in a service elevator. They also assumed she was poor. And what is it about her that made them think that she was poor? First of all, people always say there's a difference between, the preto and the pardo, black and brown, or black and mixed or whatever. But Ana Flavia has light skin. So this is another instance where I show, depending on where you are, it's not going to matter. They're still going to see you as black. This story from 1993, I think it was from Veja magazine. It was called The Black Cinderella. Her father was the first and I think only black governor of the state of Espírito Santo. And so what the story is saying that this probably wouldn't even made headlines if it wasn't for the fact that he was the governor of the state. They just assumed she was a poor black girl and she's not supposed to be on the service elevator. So she got physically assaulted because people were offended that she was on the social elevator. Again, service elevators for the maids and people working there. Social elevator is for people who live there and people visiting the people who live there. So that's what I'm saying. It doesn't say black elevator or white elevator, but everybody knows what that means. The fact is, they assume, looking at this young lady, even having light skin, they assume she had to have been a maid because of what? Okay, let's look at a couple other stories that highlight what I'm talking about here. This woman rose to becoming a lawyer out of like adverse poverty. And she talked about her story. She became a lawyer in the nation's capital city of Brasilia. She was from the northeastern state of Maranhão. And she talked about how, let me see, she worked for a family, yeah, obviously a middle class family. And she says that most black girls are very humiliated, very abused. I received old clothes. The shoes that I got once were much bigger than my foot and covered my feet with sores. I couldn't watch TV, only that I always found a way to watch hidden behind the door. Time went on, nothing changed. I washed, ironed, cooked, cleaned the house, and took care of other children. But I couldn't come up with them in the same elevator. I had to take the service elevator without understanding why. So you see here, in many Brazilian apartments, the elevators are a place where social racial discrimination occurs. This is a photo from December 4th, 1988 in the newspaper Jornal do Brasil. You see the black woman who's assumed to be a maid entering the service elevator, and then a white woman on this side using the social elevator, okay? That's not all. Middle-class apartment buildings expect that black people are not going to be able to afford to live in middle-class apartment buildings. This is a story from 2022, Get Out Monkey. In Sao Paulo, comedian musician Eddie Jr. leaves his apartment after a racist attack. Incident triggers protest in front of his apartment. So this woman's yelling at him, following him around the apartment, telling him to get out of he lives there. But they assume because he's black that he's not supposed to be there. It led to a huge protest. Her son and this woman, the son was seen on video standing outside with a broken bottle outside of this young man's whatever apartment number he had. Another time, he was shown on video waving a knife, waiting for him outside of his apartment. Why do people treat black Brazilians this way? Here's another story. 2018, how could a neguinha, a little N-word girl, live in the same building as me? Black woman impeded from entering her own apartment by two white men. So again, it's automatically assumed that this woman has to be lower class. How can she afford to be in a building where I live? And you have this story here. This is from 2016. A black woman in my building? No. Woman attacks neighbor with machete after a dispute over trash collection. I mean, it's absurd. It blows my mind how Brazil can skate under the radar talking about we don't have racism here. But then you see stories like this. This woman got attacked by another resident in the apartment building. Like, I'm not going to have black people in my building. This is supposed to be something that only happens in the United States, right? But this is what I've said. 3,700 articles on blackbraziltoday.com. You see this type of stuff happening all the time. So, the jig is up for Brazil. I'm like, let's get real. These pictures I have here, are just talking about this is a law that prohibits the distinction of social elevator and service elevator in the state of Espiritu Santo, where the story that I just told you about, the light-skinned black girl who was attacked in 1993 because people believe she's supposed to be on the service elevator. And this is just the latest incident where racism is caused by the belief in who has access to using a social elevator in an apartment building. Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to leave that story here today. Curious to know what you all thought about today's story. Definitely drop a comment in the comment section. Like this video, share this video, consider subscribing to the channel. Click on the notification bell so that you know when I put up a new video. And with that said, I'm going to end this video here and request that you all come back and check out the next video that I post.